Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. You know who it is, and thank you for listening to this new episode of the Needle Drop Podcast. Before we get into the show, we want to remind you that this is a listener-supported podcast, which means it exists because of those who support it, and they do so in a few different ways. One, they get weekly downloads of this show via a monthly subscription on our support page. We will link you to it in the description box. Looks like this, button right there. Also, you can hit up our Amazon Associates link, where basically we get a kickback for all purchases you make on Amazon.com when you use this link. Only works in the US though, unfortunately, but you can use it to basically make purchases you were already planning on making on Amazon, and that helps out this podcast as well. Also, you can stream it on YouTube and share it with a friend. All support is appreciated. All right, thank you for listening again, and on with the show. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and you are listening to a brand new episode of the Needle Drop Podcast. Thank you for being here, and in this episode, I have an interview with a very special guest, a rapper, a philosopher, Hellfire Club member, and unbeknownst to you up until this point, Connecticut skee ball champion.
Who dat?
That's you. That's Milo. How you doing, dude?
I didn't win. I didn't win skee ball.
You're always a winner in my eyes, though.
No, you were really fantastic at skee ball. I was pretty bad. And somebody got stabbed at that show.
Someone did get stabbed at that show. Sometimes people bring up in rap songs or even in conversation how dangerous where they live is. Mm-hmm. And you and I were at maybe one of the most innocent rap shows to ever tour the country, mm-hmm. and yet someone got stabbed outside.
Right. So you got to expand your definition of sensitive and soft and sweet because, yeah.
Absolutely. And also just, rethink what you think of gun waving New Haven.
Oh, that's the punchline? Damn.
There's a lot of good there's a lot of good Connecticut gun related, phrases and euphemisms. Own a gun? I don't own a gun. If I lived in gun waving New Haven, I might. Or if I lived over in Hartford, which some people call Hateford. Oh, what? And there's also a place called Bristol. Don't go through Bristol unless you got a pistol. There's a lot of good phrases having to do with firearms and Connecticut. But more about where you are. I mean, I haven't talked with you since you sort of relocated, and you're living on the West Coast now. Is that correct?
No, man, I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
You live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin again. I thought you were on the West Coast for a while.
I was. Is this a plot device, or are you real? You really didn't know
that? No, I really didn't know that, dude. I'm not. I'm not keeping track of your location. Should I be? Should I be making sure I know where you live?
No,
okay, good.
No, I just wanted to know. Yeah, man, I left LA. I was there for I guess about 6 months.
Okay, so when I talked with you about that online, it seemed like your reasoning for doing so was to sort of put yourself into a better creative headspace so that you can kind of also be shoulder to shoulder with these artists who you sort of looked up to and held in very high regard, Open Mike Eagle, Bus Driver, and just the whole Hellfire crew in general. And now you're sort of back in Wisconsin, which is, obviously your home base. Mm-hmm. What sort of made that change, back to where you were?
Well, I think what you said, man. I went to LA to try to be influenced by great artists and to learn from them and learn styles from them and, just work habits and ethics. It's not really obvious when you start rapping that it might become a job for you. And when it does, there's not a manual that lets you know how to do it, and how to do it well, and how to do it continuously. So being able to know someone like Reagan Farquhar, Bus Driver, who's like, been a lifelong career rapper, it just seemed important to go to LA and learn how to do that. And I guess once I felt comfortable with my knowledge, I left. And now I'm trying to execute what I learned in practice with my own label called Rubia.
So you kind of approached it as more of like I'm going to school for sort of like a limited amount of time sort of thing, as opposed to like turning
Right.
this into a lifestyle, I guess.
I mean, I don't really know any other way, I guess, to go about doing things. I feel very comfortable with that kind of a dynamic of going and seeking, I guess, knowledge. That's a dumb thing to say out loud like that. But yeah, man, I went to LA to learn how to be a career rapper.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily a sort of the idea of looking for knowledge like that. I don't think that's necessarily a bad way to look at it. I mean, a change of setting is great, but I think your music is really personal. Your music is really really you, and it's really intimate. And I kind of feel like while it was great, and it's great that you go someplace to sort of learn ideas and learn skills and learn, work ethic, like you were saying, from other artists who have sort of been doing this longer than you, simultaneously, I feel like where you're from is sort of essential to who you are. And if you were to change that permanently, that would probably mean a permanent change for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Like nobody turns college into their whole life.
oh yeah.
You go to school and then eventually you leave that school environment. Is that kind of how you saw it? Like in order to continue doing what you were doing successfully and sort of continue to grow, you had to sort of be in this area, learn, and then go away to be on your own to sort of, I guess, think of these ideas while you're solo?
Well, I think it goes, I don't know, it might even be simpler than that. It might just be like, to qualify something as knowledge, it has to be, demonstrated. It has to be communicated.
Sure.
And that's how you know. You know what I mean? And just like within the dynamic of Hellfire Club too, man, you have to know, like, I'm 10 years younger than the younger dude. You know what I mean? So it's like all of my ideas are coming from a place of like, oh, that's the, kind of little homie. And I don't mind that. That's cool. But I definitely want my own thing to be able to, test out bizarre ideas and stuff. Like I wanted to do this rap zine called a Bruxo. And we did that last month. It was a lot of fun. And, ideas like that really wouldn't fit in the context of a Hellfire universe. And while back in Milwaukee, there's a really strong DIY art scene here. Very, very strong. And so, moving back, buying tape dubbers, getting into manufacturing all of my own products by hand. I like that stuff, man. I like approaching this like a craft. It's important to me to keep that going.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to... Sorry, I mean, it's a lot to think about. I mean, do you think I was kind of having this conversation recently about scenes with someone, and you were just talking about the art scene that you came from. Do you sort of prefer it to the LA scene? I mean, is there something about it that obviously attracted you to the point where you felt like you needed to go back and participate in it, rather than sort of hang out in this?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are going to naturally see LA as like a bigger pond,
The thing is LA is like too many scenes. LA is a confluence of scenes on top of each other. And especially regarding rap, you have LA underground, you have LA mainstream. Then you have the convergence of the two when Kendrick Lamar goes to Bananas, which is the event that Verbs hosts. And you're like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? Why are these worlds even on top of each other?
Yeah.
And those kind of things just like, I don't know. I didn't like how they were affecting my mind and my thoughts. And like, I rented this like little tiny garage from a lady to make music in. And I would see certain people in that neighborhood sometimes, and I would be tripping off of it. And then I would be like, man, why do I give a fuck? And just, you know what I mean? You start to buy into all that kind of stuff when you're surrounded by it in LA. While out here in Milwaukee, I would say the scene here is not focused so much on the creator as it is on what is created. And that seems like a better model to be working from. Like you want to be like, yo, this thing I made is dope, not yo, I'm dope and you should be paying attention to my every movement.
Scenes really have just so many ups and downs to them. Not to say that you made the wrong move. I'm talking in reaction to everything that you said about the LA
It's a
scene.
little
The scenes can have a lot of attention on them, which can definitely help out your career if you're a part of this,
yeah.
I guess, kind of music journalism blitz. Like, oh, everybody from this one immediate area is like really cool and really interesting all of a sudden. When we just started paying attention to them for whatever reason. But then simultaneously, some people float to the top of that, and then all the people stuck at the bottom, only have so much leeway and influence. And I guess there's a bit of a glass ceiling there once the kind of stars have been established, I guess, until things kind of cool down, and then you sort of have this Kendrick Lamar come out of nowhere. Like just when people thought there was really no reason to pay attention to that area anymore, somebody just comes out of it and it's like, oh wow, that guy's really great. But on the flip side of that, sort of being in a small scene, and I imagine that this probably isn't the case where you are. I mean, I don't think you would be there if it were, but sometimes with a small scene, people can be sort of close-minded to new ideas and only want to support, certain sounds or certain artists. I mean, certain ideas can kind of be established within a particular local scene, and then people just want to support that sound or support the artists that kind of give them that sound and avoid anyone else.
I don't know. In my experience, it's been the inverse, man, which is why I returned. In LA, I would definitely say like rap and rap habits tend to be more motivated by, whether or not it's a paid opportunity. And that makes sense. It costs more to live in LA. You know what I mean? In Milwaukee, the pace of life is slower. It's cheaper to live here. And so I'm doing a lot more experimenting and playing with people I would never normally play with just because I can. There's nothing riding on it. It's not a big deal, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But I think, too, what you were talking about earlier, maybe like why Milwaukee scene versus LA scene. In LA, something that I experience, which obviously anyone who listens to LA rap knows, is just like everyone in LA is so proud to be from LA and a rapper. And you're like, man, I'm not from LA, but I'm a rapper. And I don't know, my mind would just wander like, shit, I should return to Milwaukee. I'm good at what I do, and I could be incubating things instead of just kind of experiencing them here.
Well, I think that's the kind of mindset that you would expect from somebody who, like you were saying earlier, the youngest dude in the rap crew who is 10 years younger than the youngest dude and is the little homie. That dude who came up in in the internet age that you did isn't going to see location as a big deal. Like you're going to want to be where you're comfortable, not where you think you can make it, because in your mind, you could make the kind of music that you want to make anywhere, and you don't need to be anywhere other than the internet in order to give it to the people who want to hear it.
Right. Yo, man, I mean, that's really true. And a lot of that is like big ups to, you, thank you, sir, and other choice individuals who, when I was in college, literally in nowhere, made my rap career possible early on. And so I think I've had that demonstrated to me. Those guys are from LA. They've only ever, orbited the LA scene. And so there's just a huge importance on location for them. But yeah, I experienced a different thing.
So kind of just living out your days in Milwaukee, is that kind of your plan? Or do you think, and just like kind of quietly just working at your craft? Or do you think that you can kind of be in this, small, sleepy place, but still have, I guess, kind of big musical ambitions?
Yeah, I have some ambitions, man. Right now, what I'm doing in Milwaukee is just building infrastructure. And so here, things are cheap. I'm able to have a studio and an apartment, stuff like that.
Sure.
And when starting this label and like cultivating a roster and talking to artists who are all over the country and who are like my age, and like kind of trying to convince some of them to move and wanting to build a community, and then wanting to really just transmit a strong and clear aesthetic that is totally our own. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of rap being made like what I make, and I don't even think what I make is that experimental. I know lots of people who make weirder stuff,
Hmm.
and so I just want to, I guess I want to explore that vein and hopefully be able to give a name to it and a home to some of those kind of artists with Ruby Yacht. So my goal is really to make Milwaukee a rap destination. Ultimately, I don't think this town will be considered sleepy much longer, even if it is much anymore. I mean, on the touring circuit, it's a really dope spot.
Yeah, I think sleepy was the wrong word. I mean, it's a smaller city.
Yeah, no.
It's not seen as on large a scale as LA or whatever, as far as a hip hop destination. But you seem to really kind of have a passion for that immediate area, and you sort of want to, put it on the map, sort of, in maybe not in the same way, but sort of like in an alike way to the whole Straight Outta Compton thing, because up until the release of that record, I mean, Compton wasn't known as this musical destination or a place that anybody super significant was from as far as music goes.
I think that what I would like to do though is maybe even make a final point about geography, though, which is like if a dope
Please do.
if a dope alternative rap label can come out of Milwaukee at this time and really cement itself, then I think it sort of is like, who even cares where you're from anymore? You know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah.
that being, I guess, the difference between our thing and NWA's thing. Because Compton is like, they stake their entire claim on Compton's existence, while I think in my situation, it's defying a location and therefore kind of dismissing location in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, there are a lot of great labels out there that I follow pretty closely, but they don't so much specifically deal in hip hop that
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell they're from, honestly. Like I don't know, and the thing is, I mean, they may be from somewhere, but they don't necessarily announce it.
Right.
I have no idea where the hell Software Records is from. I have no idea where Triangle Records is from. I have no idea where What's Your Rupture is from. Is Mexican Summer
Right.
from Mexico? I don't know. Probably not.
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No, probably not.
So I used to find Polyglot. My favorite J Electronica song is Charlie Style.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that? Mike Eagle? It's real good. It's real good.
Yo, did you see did you see his Rap God comment, J Electronica, talking about how he's the god of rap in response to sort of seeing J. Cole and Drake, or he was talking on during a performance about how he's the god of rap.
I mean, if you're not talking about Reagan, Michael, or David, then I guess, yeah, I would say J Electronica.
Well, I mean, I
I'm not
was my response to that personally was like he actually is the god of rap, because we never see him and we almost never hear him, and all we know of him are these old documents that we just mull over just again and again and again and again. So I mean, in that respect, he very much is like the deity of hip hop.
Dude, there's, I don't know, something about J Electronica, man. Like, really only magical.
No, there is, which is why he's
It's so,
kept up so much, all this attention for so long.
no doubt, no doubt.
Not to sort of talk to you as if I'm an old man and you're someone who's super young, because we don't really have that much of an age difference. But I think what people in your generation and younger really need to prove to people, and this is happening little by little, is that location just doesn't matter anymore. We're not tethered to a scene. We're not tethered to a location. You can make great music anywhere. You can promote great music from anywhere. You don't need to be, you don't need to move to New York to make it, which, I mean, when I was, in college, there were musicians who I knew in my immediate area who were like, we're getting the hell out of Connecticut. We're going to go to New York and we're going to fucking make it. Which, I at the time I thought was ridiculous, but But that's actually the story of a lot of musicians from Connecticut. I mean, Thurston Moore's from Connecticut.
Right.
There are actually quite a few popular musicians who made it, either in the mainstream or in the underground, who are from Connecticut. But the thing is, in the internet age, that's not how the model works anymore.
Yeah.
It just kind of seems like, unless you kind of had an opportunity like you did, like there are already artists out there who fuck with your music and, who you could gain insight from on a really close and personal level, because they'll sort of allow you into their musical world and sort of, watch them create and, give you the ability to collaborate with them. Unless you're kind of allotted that opportunity, I don't really see the point in just moving to some place just to make the art you want to make. You should be able to make the art you want to make anywhere. Especially in the digital age, unless maybe you make like organ music and there's like some kind of super awesome organ in like Norway or something in like an old church that only sounds a certain way, and you got it, and good. Yeah, that too. And you got to go out there. You got to go out there to play that organ. But, other than that situation, I don't see why you got to move.
I mean, I think that you should travel, but yeah, I don't know if you have to move.
Oh yeah, most definitely travel. I mean, nothing wrong with traveling. I mean, that you should make music, gather some attention behind it, and then as soon as the first opportunity comes to tour, take it.
Have you toured internationally yet?
Have I toured internationally? I've been outside of the country doing what I do. Yeah.
That's really dope, dude. Where did you go?
I went to Barcelona earlier this year to do Primavera Sound. I know, it's crazy. I never would have thought I would go to Barcelona ever in my life.
What'd you eat over there?
I don't know, just like vegetarian stuff. I mean, it's kind of like a metropolitan city. I mean, most of everything you can get over here, you can get over there.
But that's not the stuff I would want. But I see what you mean.
Yeah, I know, but I'm vegan, so I got to keep it vegan everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Reagan's vegan. Touring with him is interesting. He has to eat Subway every day, just salad, bread.
Well, I was mostly just taking in the architecture more than I was the food in the downtown area. There's a lot of Gothic architecture down there. It was pretty freaking awesome.
Frozen music, yes. Architecture.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's frozen music. That's a beautiful way of looking at it.
I didn't invent that saying, but I can't remember who did.
That's just take credit for whatever you stole and don't remember its origins.
Okay.
And then once the person who actually did make it up and is angry with you comes knocking on your door, you're like, that's where that came from. Cool, dude. Thanks for the reminder.
Oops.
All right. So does even though tell me, how recently did you move back to Milwaukee? How recent was that move back?
I moved back to Milwaukee in February.
Okay, so that's not too long ago. So you, while you were over there in LA, you made quite a bit of music out there.
I made so much music.
You made a lot of music out there, and you released quite a bit of it too. Did you make that whole Scallops Hotel sort of album, the Plain Speaking record? Did you make that out there entirely, or did you make some of that in Milwaukee?
I made all of that. Well, no, shit, I didn't make all of it. I made 85% of it in Milwaukee.
Okay.
I made the first song in LA. That was the first song was made in LA, and then I think we moved 3 days later.
You made this record, 85% of this record, once you moved back to home base in Milwaukee. What did your creative process turn into, in this more familiar place, as opposed to when you were in LA, sort of in this quieter setting where you're by yourself and you're not sort of distracted by the fact that you're in this larger area and that you're with these other artists who at one point, for sure you idolized, but I mean, I'm sure the longer you stayed over there, the more you just kind of got to know them as people and just kind of on a personal level. Once you were in this quieter space, what did your creative process turn into? Were you able to focus better? Did you feel happier with the end result of what you made?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think in LA, that phrase "proximity kills your heroes." I don't know. It's almost kind of important to go through that. I think to really start making good stuff. um, and yeah, man. By the time I got back to Milwaukee, I was able to make things entirely alone for the first time in my music making career, from the beginning to the end. Like I could make the beat, I could obviously write the raps, I can record myself, mix it, master it, be totally done, dub it to tape. Like that kind of agency really just motivated the making of Plain Speaking. I mean, that whole thing probably took 2-3 weeks to make. It was just,
Yeah, you didn't know how to do a lot of that stuff back when
yeah,
I first reviewed you.
right, exactly. And I mean, that was something that I could have abandoned. I mean, obviously, my early tapes are pretty janky sounding, but it's something that I just really am passionate about learning more about. And I'm not even professional quality, I don't think, on any of the things that I do. But I don't know. I'm trying to get better every day. And I don't know. I feel motivated by these sort of technical things that you have to, or you don't have to, but should learn about making music. It just, I don't know, it motivates me. But in LA, the process was way different, and it's cool. I finished this album with Kenny Siegel, a Milo album that'll actually be coming out pretty soon. And working with him in like a professional studios and like really nice mics, and I wouldn't have to touch any knobs or anything. You just go in there and rap the thing once, and everyone's like so stoked that you did it once. And yeah, that's a way different feeling than being in like a weird ass old factory, recording myself by the space heater, trying to like put a high pass filter so you don't hear the going on. It's a different vibe.
So, so the problems around you are sort of guiding the mixing process.
Yeah, but they're guiding the content too, man. Like, I
Sure.
guess I'm all over the place, man. I apologize, but I guess what I'm trying to illustrate by these two examples is just like how matters of place affect the process, and like why Scallops Hotel is more. It sounds like it was made in a creaking old wooden place because it genuinely was made in a creaking old wooden place, and
So you're not, you're the other setting. I mean, it was great to learn there, but it was a little too sanitary. You're not like Drake. You're not in the studio one take. You're on the iPhone, reading your lyrics right off the iPhone.
yeah, I've done that stuff and it's cool, but it's like not what I want to do all the time, and it's definitely not what I find to be fulfilling, or it's just not that dope. But I've done that. Yeah, I've been Drake off the iPhone.
It sounds like, you just get more out of.
Dude, like there's so many weird things that happen when you're a musician that nobody will ever know about. Like one time Mike Reagan and I went to Dave Grohl's studio to record with Jill Scott, and I did the verse off the iPhone like what you're talking about. And
Uh-huh.
we're all like, "What the fuck are we doing here?" And like that song probably is already deleted 3 times over. Who, you know what I mean? And you're just,
Was that supposed to be on her? Was that supposed to be on her new
I don't think it's
record?
supposed to be on anything. I don't even, I don't know why I was even there, man. But that's the kind of stuff that you find yourself doing in beautiful studios in LA.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck was I doing that for? I could have been in my bedroom throwing down 5 different songs on an album I could, put on Bandcamp next week. And
So you're like, essentially in the room. Jill Scott's there, Dave Grohl's studio, and you're just like, man, I wish I was on Bandcamp right now. I wish I was just like
no,
home recording my own stuff.
it's just like at that level of musicianship and that many people involved, and it's just like, yo, I'm like, this isn't me. Like, I don't even, you have employees. Your creation process involves employees. Can you, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just blows my mind. And yeah, it's not for me.
So
Although I don't feel like I'm that meme guy. But
No, probably not. But I mean, you're saying some people thrive in that environment, and some people. It seems like to me you kind of want to be like this. I don't know, this jack of all musical trades when it comes to every single step of the recording process of your music. Sort of stepping into a studio and be like, yeah, man, got the verse, and then just passing it off to some dude to produce it, and then passing it off to another dude to mix it and master it or whatever, and then passing it off to another dude to sort of put it onto a tape that just kind of seems inauthentic or something.
it doesn't even seem inauthentic. It just, for me, it's how I've been able to make money and live. And so I've become passionate about my craft. It has nothing to do with me feeling like anyone else is doing something inauthentic. I just, coming up in a different music business time, I have to figure out how to make a living by selling my music. And obviously digitally is not the way that happens often.
Yeah.
And so what I found is if I go through and I make sure that on every level of this thing that I'm making, I had involvement, if not total involvement, then I am giving this thing that I'm making worth, right? I'm saying this is worth my time in all these different ways. And I put that time up, and I don't know, it's been an interesting thing when I have to obviously sell my art. And that's why I do it, man. I don't know. It's not a matter of authenticity. I just,
Yeah, authenticity is
no,
probably the
it's
wrong
cool. No,
term, but
I'm not harping on that. I've had this conversation a few times, sometimes at shows or with other musicians, and there's, obviously the way that I have written my music and write my music, there seems to be this idea that maybe I think I'm like the most authentic man. Like, I'm really out here, dog. And I do this shit because that's how I've been able to eat, and it's for no other reason than that. And now I'm passionate about it, and I want to do it because I don't see anyone else doing it. But I don't know. That's it.
well, going off of that, just one thing to sort of clarify what I was saying, not only just to, sort of get a definite answer out of you on this. It seems like the more you involve yourself in the process, the more you can put what you feel is like your personal spin into every aspect of the music, which makes it more personal for you, because the music in the past that I know that you've made where other people have been producing, and maybe other parts of the creative process too have been passed off to other people. That music sounded very different to me than what you were just doing on, Scallops Hotel, in terms of just the aesthetic of it. And, do you feel like you're in sort of involving yourself in more steps of that process? Do you feel like you are sort of giving people a more personal product, giving people more you in the music?
Yo, thank you for asking such a great question, man. I mean, that's like a question I feel like musicians.
Well, I mean, and it's not even so much a question as much as it is. It just kind of seems like that's what you were getting at, by saying,
like,
yeah.
I want to be able to. Scallops Hotel shit is a way for me to make my own beats under a lower stakes operation, and then be able to import that knowledge into the Milo operation. So when I'm in a room with the studio, I can communicate my ideas fluidly, if not just demonstrate, And so the music is able to become way more personal because, for once, I'm able to really have a hand in the architecture and the structures, and that stuff really opens me up lyrically. And I mean, especially earlier on with like, weird flow problems and rhythm problems and stuff like that, and being attracted to a certain type of beat, but not being able to change it or morph it or make my own version of it to accommodate what I needed to say.
Okay. Well, to go off the second thing that you were saying earlier, and I think this is something that people of your generation and younger also need to work against, and maybe working against kind of just by fact that you're like, this is what I got to do, this is just like the fact of life. It just kind of seems like people my age and older are still stuck on this idea of like, the moment art starts making money, it's inauthentic, or you've sold out in some kind of way, or it's just like, totally uncool. Whereas, you sort of seem to be talking about the fact that you've been making a living off of this in this really just kind of frank and open way.
I mean, it's not
and not in like, sort of a typical hip hop braggadocious kind of way, just as like, this is how I eat, brew.
Yo, man, we have to demystify it. That's something that my OGs taught me, like Bus, that's his huge thing. We have to demystify it. Like, this is just a job, man. Like a really dope one that I'm passionate about and was groomed to be good at. But at the end of the day, this is how I earn a living. And so to talk about it any other way is to do it a disservice, and especially when you start talking about it in these weird clouded ways, I just don't even understand why. I guess if you were very wealthy, that would be why. But the majority of rappers I know aren't, and they kind of try to hide that maybe or not talk about it as an occupation, which I think is part of the reason why especially independent rap is the way that it is today, because constantly you have the people doing it telling you not to do it, that it isn't lucrative, that it is a loser career, that it, you know what I mean? It's like, why are you doing that?
Sure.
Then you wonder why I'm 10 years younger than the youngest homie in the crew. It's like, you didn't water the fields.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a really interesting observation.
I don't know. That's that was tangential, but like, I don't know. It is a job, and it's one that I love, and especially trying to get, my friends involved who are musicians and pursuing this as their careers. It's definitely become useful to speak about it in these open terms. So I guess that's
I think I think the reason we kind of have people sort of with that bitterness is because, like you were talking about, people sort of talk about this career and this sort of life in very mystical terms and in very sort of inflated terms. So as a result, I mean, you have music fans that are either sort of angry and sort of jealous over the fact that all you do is like say words into a microphone and you make money, and then they're pissed about that. And so as a result of that jealousy, they hate you, and they hate anybody else who they can kind of compare to you, sort of doing the same thing that you're doing. But on the flip side of that, there are also other people who, and those people, even though they hate you, they're still buying into this mystery. Even though they think that they're being real by sort of rejecting the idea of yeah, that person's famous, fuck that guy. They're not being real because they're still, even though they're angry and they're rejecting it, they still believe that lifestyle and that lavish idea of what it's like to be a musician or a rock star or a rapper or whatever is like a real thing. And then on the other side, you have people who accept the mystery as real, but they buy into it and they love it.
Right.
And they use that belief that you're this famous rapper, or that, so-and-so is this famous rapper, to sort of build up their opinion of that person. Like, oh my God, I can't believe how amazing this person is. They're famous and they're rich, and, they're having sex with this person and that person. And, their lyrics that somebody else might have ghostwritten for them is on a Sprite can. I love that person.
I love that person.
I love that person.
I am in love with that person.
I'm in love with the cocoa. Anyway, sorry.
My person is the...
Sorry.
Never mind.
That idea and that sort of, that mystery and that idea of like, musicians sort of all living this really lavish, awesome, crazy lifestyle where they're just, being given party drugs and having sex with groupies like left and right. I feel like building that up helps some musicians, but it helps the musicians but it hurts the musicians who are just starting out. And the people who are sort of on the lower rung need to deal with the bullshit that people throw at them.
Because then everyone else conflates the mystical bullshit that you hear about musicians with like They treat that as if it were a rubric with which to judge musicians and their success. And so then it's like, what is even happening here, right? Like, I'll tell someone I'm a rapper, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's weird," like da 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 da, and then they'll just assume that I'm hella broke because I'm an indie rapper,
Sure.
and then, like that is a common thing, and it's like, why do you think that? Oh, because you're not exuding XYZ characteristic or whatever. And I don't know, that's really the problem. When people take, Sprite can rappers, bullshit propaganda, mysticism, PR campaign as the rubric with which to judge the next Bus Driver album. That's pretty whack.
Sprite can rappers, that is a genre now.
Oh, I know. And even that is very interesting. Like, Vince Staples is so clever, right? And like the way he's been promoting Sprite in particular has been so interesting with its decidedly postmodern tongue-in-cheek vibe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of very sort of very artsy sort of I guess music endorsement ad campaigns going on right now. Not only with that whole Sprite thing, but with the whole like Kendrick Lamar Reebok like shoe deal that just went down about like the blood
blue,
and Crip, red and blue, sort of shoe concept, which is just like
Moses of the Reeboks.
I know.
Yeah, man. Lately, I've been thinking about how rap stopped urging its listeners to express themselves without making purchases. It's kind of bums me out. Like, I don't know, man. When I was a sophomore in high school, it was like the peak of the mixtape era and culture, and I just loved that time. And my first release, the mixtape, like I don't know. I miss that shit.
You feel like the mixtape culture is kind of dead right now, or it's just so saturated that it doesn't mean anything?
For rap, it's at a point where it's considered less than artistic. And I just find that like a lot of people who listen to rap, they're not given opportunities to express themselves outside of just making purchases.
I think a lot of people have just kind of tuned out to that whole mixtape thing because it's because of just technology and everything. It's so easy for someone to make a mixtape, and not to say that like what you were doing early on was really easy. I think simultaneously what people expect quality level when you say mixtape has like fallen dramatically.
Yeah.
It's like it's easy to make a mixtape. It's easy to make a crappy mixtape, but still call it a mixtape and just be like, "Hey, dude, check out my mixtape." And that's not even something that I personally experience as somebody who reviews music. I mean, the idea of somebody throwing their mixtape your way and trying to get you to listen to their mixtape is actually a pretty widely acknowledged meme on the internet, because pretty much anywhere that you go where people can comment freely on a forum or in the comment section of something, somebody's like, "Hey man, I'm broke, will you listen to my mixtape?" So are you saying that like that things were a little more fresh when they were free? Or I mean, what is the preferred way in which you would like to be seeing rap fans sort of express themselves without making a purchase? Because at least in my experience, they're doing that all the time with social media and with angry comments and with personal endorsements.
I guess I don't think of that. Yeah, I don't think of that as like a creative endeavor, like an angry comment. I don't know, man. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I feel weird right now when I look at rap and I look at just how much of it is being used to sell shit. That's all. It's not a new story.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So I think it seems like acknowledging the fact that you make money off of this and you make a living off of this is one thing, but sort of co-opting it in such a way where it becomes sort of like semi an advertisement is kind of where the line is drawn for you.
That's definitely where the line is drawn for me. Yeah, I guess I'd feel uncomfortable with that in my own life.
So moving on to just kind of what people can expect from you in the near future. I mean, now that you're back in Milwaukee with this past Scallops Hotel project, you're obviously making quite a bit of music out there. And you said that you have a Milo project on the way. When can people expect the new Milo album? And now that you've sort of displayed to us kind of the function of the Scallops Hotel project, what did you learn or do during plain speaking that you're going to apply in kind of a bigger and better and more significant way on your next Milo album?
I think maybe the most prominent aspect of the next Milo record is it's not very shy. It's not painfully self-aware. I'm not painfully self-aware anymore. I'm able to say what I want to say without rationalizing it, without qualifying it, or without even really feeling the need to contextualize it that thoroughly. So I think that would be confusing to a lot of people. It's louder, man, but it's definitely like the next Milo record is the one that I feel. I mean, I say this every time, but shit, man, I don't know. It feels really good. It feels dope. It feels like a breakthrough in the sense of it has all the components of each album has been a lesson, and it has all the components of those lessons, but it also is just this breakthrough moment. In a lot of ways, like with this one, I've been saying, I wish this could have been the first thing I ever made because it really feels like the first thing. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's different.
Well, I think that's a great feeling and a feeling that any artist should actually strive for on each new release. I mean, even though in retrospect, you might look at your old stuff and just kind of be like, man, I did that, or, that's all right, but I feel like I'm doing A, B, and C better now. Even though you might look at that older stuff and feel that way, it's still good to acknowledge that at that moment when you released it, you were like, yeah, I feel like I've actually improved this time. And I think the moment, I don't think you should consider releasing something until you kind of find that moment, until you find that feeling like, okay, I'm at a point where I personally feel like I've matured in some kind of way, or I'm doing something really different or fulfilling or something.
I would have loved for that to have been, but I am not willing to compromise, and I want to be a rapper for a living. And so there are times you put out an album when you got to eat, man. Like, that's just the reality of it. But yeah, with this one, everything worked out in that sense of timing, and that really, I mean, man, it comes out late September, and
okay,
yeah, man, it's called So the Flies Don't Come. Kenny Siegel made the beats, and I wrote the raps. It's dope.
Okay, Kenny Siegel on the beats, you're on the raps. So the Flies Don't Come. It's coming this September. Now that you've kind of been solo for a while and you've established yourself as the solo artist who lives off of what they do, the moment you started working in this whole Scallops Hotel realm, what were you thinking, and kind of where was your mind when you were on the border of sort of doing, I'm doing a side project, I can't believe it. Like, what puts you in that position, or kind of, how exactly do you communicate to the people who love you for this one thing? And even though they love you, that there are people who, who listen to what you do, who are going to try to pigeonhole you, and are like, obviously, you're probably thinking, I know a guy like that who wears glasses and is a total fucking dickhead who's talking to me right now. But, obviously you're not going to make everybody happy with every release and every single time you try to do something different. It sounds like, you're in a position though where you're your lack of self-awareness, I guess, you kind of benefit from that, because the more people who start following you and listening to you, the more opinions are going to get thrown your way, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I feel fortunate to have a working relationship with you, Anthony, because, it has been interesting for me, and especially kind of in a weird public way, to be like, oh man, this guy is cool, and like, oh, he kind of put me on. And then be like, oh, he didn't like that one. oh, he like that, oh, he didn't like, or whatever, and just having to like learn how to take criticism to a degree and learn also when to just ignore it, entirely.
Sure.
And I feel like when I moved to LA and then Toothpaste Suburb came out, that was really the pinnacle of me learning to ignore shit entirely. Because I mean, there were things going weird with Hellfire, there were things going weird with the records reception, and I was on tour writing a lot of music and just learning how to mute all of that shit out and
Yeah.
and make a new thing despite it. And I'm very proud of it.
I mean, that's really important. I mean, for not only for a few reasons, because it obviously you make a living off of pleasing your fans. However, you can't break down your whole creative. What is it?
You think that's the case?
I'm saying, oh, yeah, I think that's the case, unless I didn't sort of explain myself well enough. I feel like, you obviously live off the fact that you make music that is pleasing to other people. If other people had no interest in your music, if your music didn't please people, then you wouldn't be making a living off of it. I mean, nobody.
There's like a little linguistic trick you just did.
Okay.
Like pleasing the.
If it is, I mean, if there is, it wasn't intentional. Like, tell me where I misstepped.
No, I don't know if you missed it. You said I'm able to live by making music that pleases my fans.
Sure.
And I just.
And when I say please, I mean kind of maybe in the loosest terms,
Mm-hmm. I just don't know if. I honestly don't. When I'm making a music, that thought doesn't come into my mind at all.
Sure. And not that it should, I think when you're in the middle of the, music making process, you should be ultimately focused on just the thing that you are making right then and there. I think the thought of whether or not this is going to be received well, when that thought should cross your mind, is probably when all the tracks are assembled and the album is there just in its finished glory, and you can kind of see the bigger picture for what it is. Because, while you might have an idea or a concept for what you want to make while you're in the middle of making it, when it's actually done, it may end up like something totally different, Mm-hmm. And the thing is, even though you have an idea, you don't know what you're making. You don't even really fully know what it is yet until it's completely realized. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, in a weird sense, I mean, in a very, I guess, a technical and frank sense, you do make a living off the fact that people enjoy your music and they want to pay for it, or they want to go to a show, or they want to kind of support you in some kind of monetary way.
No doubt.
However, you can't derail your whole creative process because of one opinion one fan sent you. And, as far as people who are in my position go, I mean, while I do have opinions about your music, and you're free to watch those opinions or any opinion that I make, I don't make those opinions with you in mind, just like you don't make music necessarily with the thought in mind that like, oh, are my fans going to like this, what I'm making right here, because you don't even, in the middle of the creative process, until something is done, you don't even know what it is yet. It's kind of a preposterous place to just start thinking, are people going to like this? It's not even done yet.
Damn. Yeah, I agree. We're on the same page.
What you're doing on this record beat wise, obviously working with this new producer for the duration of the whole record, you're saying the album is louder and you're less shy. Would you go as far as to say the album is like aggressive in any way, or is it just, rather than speaking at a whisper, you're kind of taking more of a stern tone?
I mean, it's about confronting, I would say. So, I don't know. Is there aggression in a confrontation? Yeah, probably. I don't know if I would say it's aggressive, though. I would say the mission is to be confronting things, confronting a lot of like the ugly. So Wittgenstein talks about like, what if, truth isn't the be all end all? What if beauty is? And what if what is ugly is what is wrong, and you have to confront the ugly, and truth is participating in what is beautiful, and just kind of switching those ideas around. And so I don't know. This album's a lot about confronting the ugly inside myself and outside of myself, and as it relates to color in this country, and as it relates to class in this country, and as it relates to education and things like that. And I mean the title too, So the Flies Don't Come, is about what activities, what do you do? So, these ugly things that signify death, what do you do so that they don't come?
Thank you for shedding light on that, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. This is the first time I've really talked to anyone about the record outside of Kenny and, like Al and my dad and a few other people. So my language about it might be a little shaky or weird because it's been very in my own head.
And so you're telling me what you're kind of doing with the record conceptually and what you're doing with the record lyrically, sort of focusing in on these topics. What is it about Kenny's production that made you want to, sort of stick with him for the duration of this record? Like, what is he doing musically and sonically that you feel like makes for an appropriate backdrop to these kinds of songs with these kinds of topics?
Well, for me, it was to kind of, I guess, loop back to what we were talking about in the beginning, moving to LA as this mecca of a particular style of rap, and then by extension freestyle, and these artists who are linked very closely with the jazz and blues tradition, poetry tradition, and just this kind of open-minded, probing that's happening through music, that really through rap, that really for me, my understanding of that is that it's in LA, and that the people who started doing that kind of rap, cats like Micah 9 and Self Jupiter, and it's too many to name, are in LA. So for me, it became a matter of who is a producer here who is totally aware of this brilliant tapestry, who has a complete understanding of this music, maybe deeper than me. And the person I was able to access in my circles was Kenny Siegel. And I mean, Kenny Siegel used to live with Peace from Fellowship, from Freestyle Fellowship, like with Abstract Rude. Like, he has so many legendary, I mean, he's in the Cleaners with Self Jupiter. Like, he's worked with legends, and guys that really have influenced my understanding of myself and my music and my craft. And so having the opportunity to work with Kenny Siegel was an honor. And when our first couple songs were really good and it became obvious, like, maybe we could do a whole album, even knowing that was something that he was willing to do, that was why I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? That Kenny Siegel would even make an album with me was like, wow, of course I would do that. And it became an opportunity to explore myself in this art that I love in this place where it came from with the actual cast, like Micah 9 is on the album. And so, yeah, having like Kenny Siegel production, Micah 9's on the thing, like I'm with my Hellfire guys writing a lot of these songs. Like, I wanted to have a total, I guess, LA experience. And so that is what that record is.
So before so you feel like even in Milwaukee, you're making a record thematically that kind of has an LA vibe to it. So you feel like even though you personally.
No, I'm sorry, my bad. We so this record, I made it in LA. I went back in May and recorded with Kenny for like 14 days.
Okay. You didn't say that. You didn't say that.
I know, that's what I mean. That's why I'm sorry. I'm confusing you.
Okay.
And we had actually done a few of the songs at the very first Low End Theory Festival. Like, right after it was when I met Kenny Siegel and went to his house. We recorded like 3 jams. And then, I went back in May after I'd already moved back to Milwaukee. And that's when we really did the heavy lifting on the album.
It's awesome that you bring up Freestyle Fellowship, because they're a group that's not often referenced, even though, like the 90s are kind of hip right now again, as far as like hip hop, you know, like referencing a lot of those older groups, a lot of the hardcore groups and boom bap groups and jazz rap groups. And whenever anybody asks me about jazz rap, that's one of the first groups I recommend. I feel like more that, you know, although I do love A Tribe Called Quest, I felt like they kind of, for their time, embodied the idea of jazz more than they did.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. I mean, they embodied the idea of the jazz performer and the jazz mind, and really getting crazy open on these songs, both stylistically and lyrically. And I mean, truly, right, with the improvised, you know, making up full songs on the spot. I mean, that
Sure, yeah.
that alone really pushes it. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, dude. I mean, we've been talking for so goddamn long, and
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna cut it off here, just for everybody else's sake. And I mean, you told me a lot about the record, and I appreciate that. And
Oh, thank you.
no, thank you for coming on and just, you know, being real open, like you usually are.
I tried to be. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to, man.
No problem, dude.